welcome to the Bill Mason Show. How you doing today, Bill?
I'm doing well. Welcome to the Tuesday edition.
Yes, and we have a lot to talk about. So we're going to talk about Project Veritas again. They did another earth-shattering Facebook undercover video today.
Yeah, he seems to have a lot in the works, and he just keeps it coming. So this is great. The pressure's really being applied to social media outlets now.
Yeah, I agree. So that's a good video. We're going to show that at the end of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to talk about earthquakes today, 7.4 in Mexico.
Huge. Yeah,
we have videos of that.
Yeah.
And then we're going to talk about, of course, what's going on in the country, about the protests, what Trump's talking about, all that stuff. So we have India and China that might go to war. That's going to be big news. Of course, Egypt and Libya and Turkey might go to war. We got news on that later on in the show. So we have a lot to talk about, Bill.
Yeah, all this and more. I'm going to try to keep it short so we can fit it all in. I'm not going to ramble today.
All right, no rambling, and
no rambling.
I won't ramble either.
All right. You don't ramble.
All right. So we're going to go into a commercial break, and we'll...
Battle for Liberty. This is the Bill Mason Show.
Welcome back to the Bill Mason Show.
Welcome back, Tuesday edition. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you liked and subscribed from the last show.
Yes. And have you ever ate at the House of Wings?
Actually, I'm kind of jonesing for some wings right now after watching that.
Yeah, it's pretty good. They said it's in New Jersey. Of course, it's fictitious. Of course, doesn't really.
Yeah.
Anyway,
well, that was back in the '90s when Trump was cool and everybody liked him and he was this fun guy and everybody wanted to dance with him.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, no one likes him now for some reason except for us. But there are some strange things going on. I mean, we have this video. It tells you the picture of what's going on in the society. Let's take a look at this, see what's going on with if you wear a hat that says "Make America Great Again."
Beware.
I'm right up here on the left. Actually, the road's closed, so you can turn around in the driveway at the bottom of the hill. Have a good night.
Face to face with 16-year-old high school.
You serious right now?
Go! Keep going! Go! Keep going! Go!
Really, it was just a matter of time before we saw something like this, and I'm really surprised that we haven't seen something worse.
People always ask, what does it mean to make America great again?
Man, heart's like the stone, man.
You try to give you a push?
Yeah, please, man. I appreciate it.
All right, look, here's what we're gonna have to do. I'm gonna push, don't hit the brakes at all. You just gotta keep going.
It means to make America a better place than it was the day before.
There we are. So that's what it is to make America great again, is help your neighbor, no matter what color they are.
Yeah, man. And like we said before in previous shows, like, MAGA doesn't have a color. It was definitely a social media push, and probably a well-funded one, to turn the MAGA hat into some sort of, oh, it's the new Klan hood, and, you know, all this stuff, and to make people stop wearing it. I mean, that's what it really boiled down to. They were so scared of the support and the momentum.
Right. Yeah, I agree. So, I mean, there's, 60 million people love Trump, so I was only kidding about just me and you liking him.
Yeah, I mean, I if it was just me and you, I don't think he would be president right now. We don't have that kind of swing.
Right, but we do have other countries like him too. Let's take a look and see what this video shows.
Yeah.
We love Trump! We love Trump! We love Trump! Mr. President, if you are seeing this, just know that the great deplorables of the United Kingdom love you, we are with you, we stand with you, and we want you to succeed. Forget about the people in London, forget about the establishment, forget about the detractors in the fake news media. The real people out there in the United Kingdom, we love you, Mr. President!
There we go. So other countries, UK is chanting, we want Trump.
Yeah, I've heard that he has a lot of presence actually in Europe. It's probably most of the people that were for the Brexit movement, and you know, there's definitely a split down the middle, I think, in European politics, especially in the UK. I mean, his vision. I mean, you saw who they elected. Okay, like, you know, he's basically like the British Trump. So I mean, you know, the momentum's there, and I think that if it keeps going, that it's gonna get harder and harder for social media. They can click delete 100,000 times if they want to, but there's still the word on the street, the actuality, the people asking questions in the stores and stuff, and it's just something that you can't deny anymore, that he does have support. And I think that's what they're most in fear of.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we're running out of ammo too in the country. I mean, look behind you.
Yes. So I did this real quick. The civil unrest in the recent months. So the government had to put in a huge order for ammunition to make sure that they had enough. And if you go to your local supply, wherever you get your ammo, you're going to find that it's slim pickings. I know it is here in Pennsylvania. And it's because gun sales are off the charts right now. Legal gun ownership is off the charts. So this civil unrest, like a pendulum swing, I mean, the more crazy it gets, the more the normal people say, okay, no cops, I better have something. And firearm sales are just, going like wildfire right now, to the point where the government had to make sure they had enough ammunition. So they put in an order, which basically does like a stop, like Federal and UMC and all these companies that just churn out ammo. They got to do the government order first. So you're going to see a lot more empty shelves.
Wow, that's frightening, because everybody needs ammo.
Everybody needs ammo. I mean, these new gun owners, they got to learn how to use their new tool.
Right.
And it is a tool, a defensive tool.
It is, definitely. Well, I mean, we have Trump talking the other day about Biden, about he hasn't done anything in 47 years.
Seriously. Other than anything good. He's done a lot of bad stuff.
Right. I mean, we talk about all these issues and problems. He hadn't mentioned it once in 47 years.
Exactly.
So let's take a look and see what Trump said.
Mm-hmm.
Virtually every policy that has hurt black Americans for half a century, Joe Biden has supported or enacted. I've done more for the black community in 4 years than Joe Biden has done in 47 years. Racial justice begins with Joe Biden's retirement from public life.
Exactly.
Nailed it.
Yep. So I mean, 47 years and nothing done.
Yeah. Well, nothing good. I mean, I've seen so many old. You have to really go back a ways when, you know, Biden was that young spry guy who wanted to take you out back and punch you if you disagreed with him.
Right.
That Biden, and that's when he was proud of the crime bill. And he put, 72 new offenses that'll, get the death penalty, and 54 new throw you away for life. And he went on touting about he didn't care about your upbringing. If you break the law, you're going to go away for a long time. So, I mean, I don't know how he's able to hide from that, but somehow the media is doing it, because I saw Twitter videos that were pulled like in an hour that were showing all that stuff.
Wow. Well, I mean, he can't come up with a full sentence.
No.
Hasn't done anything in 47 years, so I don't know what people are trying to lean towards Biden. I have no idea why they would vote for him.
Honestly, I believe it's because they have built this hate machine towards Trump, towards don't pay attention to what he does as the executive, don't pay attention to the things he's gotten us out of as the commander-in-chief of the military. Don't pay attention to that. Hate him because he's Trump. It's the orange man bad people, and they literally they're trying to say, well, you hate Trump a lot, right? Like a real lot. Well, then we have Biden, and people are like, oh man. It's going to be really tough. And I know that in 2016, a lot of people I heard after talk about, yeah, I told a lot of my family I was voting, whatever. Back then it was Hillary, but I'm sure today it's going to be Biden, and they'll go in there and they'll have to face the fact that I like this country. I want it to be okay. I don't want it to be in flames where everybody just takes over city blocks. Boom, Trump. And they'll walk out and they'll be like, Joe Biden. And they'll be like, oh my God, he won. But they'll be happy on the inside, because there's a certain amount of secretive things that go on when you're in that voting box. Your brain does different things. That little button becomes a big deal.
Right, it does. So, I mean, let's go back to the protests. Of course, you have Aunt Jemima's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Uncle Ben's probably gone.
Yep.
Who else is gone? They didn't get rid of Quaker Oaks guy. He was a white guy. He didn't get rid of him.
Well, not yet. I'm pretty sure he'll become a slave owner or something like that. I don't know, but I mean, the attempt to go after these, like, I don't know, food companies and guilt them into making these changes and stuff like that. I heard a black guy on the radio today. I listen to a lot of radio while I drive, and he said, every guy out there who's wearing Air Jordans that were made in China, you support slavery. Because those people that make those Air Jordans are basically slaves. And, the guy hangs up the phone or whatever. And he was talking to the black community, basically. He's saying, stop being such virtue signalers, like everybody has to bow down to you and put your little Black Lives Matter logo on things. And, oh my God, there's a black guy on this box of whatever. Let's get rid of that because they might judge us later. They're really kissing the ring of this movement, and it's going to pan out bad for them, because not everybody is like drinking the Kool-Aid. Like we shot that guy where he's like talking about he's mixing the Kool-Aid and stuff. And I mean, not everybody's down with this whole new religion, this secular humanist religion, because they're actually trying to do that too. They're trying to register themselves as a religion so they get all these protections. And I mean, it's just going to end badly, I think.
Well, it is. I mean, I was looking on Facebook earlier. I was trying to find the article, but I can't. But they had a fact check on the person's post, and it was talking about how this first person, the likeness of Aunt Jemima, she used to be a slave. She was well-to-do. On the post, they said she became the first black millionaire, but they did a fact check on her on this post. Just because she was not a millionaire. Everything was right. Everything was right. Right. And they did a fast check that she was not the first black millionaire.
Right. And I mean, I've seen that before where Snopes or whoever, they fact check something and they find one little tiny nuance and they go, nope, that's actually not true. And in all reality, in those time periods, like I saw a documentary about that time period. It was really hard for black people to become like the woman from Gone with the Wind. Not to go on a tangent, I know we got a lot to get to. The woman from Gone with the Wind won an Academy Award as a black woman for that movie, and it set a long string of call for black actors after that role. Now, yes, did she play like the housemaid and all that stuff? Yes, but after that, it paved the way for like Sidney Poitier and like all these other people to get into the business. And from there, you built up to, you know, Eddie Murphy, Dave Chappelle, and like where we are now. So like she was a trailblazer, and to take Gone with the Wind off of HBO because it was about a time period where slaves existed is awful.
No, it is awful. I mean, you got to tell people's history. You can't erase history.
Right. And I think that's what they're trying to do, because I talked to a woman today and I had to tell her a few things about the Democratic Party. And I said, well, if you really run it down, the Democrats are trying to get rid of their sins. Right. They're trying to wash their sins away, getting rid of all these Confederate monuments and stuff. Right. They put them up. Right. You know, they did this. Yeah. They did it.
Who freed a slave? Abraham Lincoln, first Republican president.
Exactly. So, I mean, by them doing all this anti-history stuff, it's to wash themselves clean.
Right. It's crazy. So let's take a look about virtual signaling and about what's going on in society. Take a look at this.
Hi, I'm the CEO of every major company in America. I just wanted to take the time to say that here at my company, Black Lives Matter. I know we spent all of February speaking to the black community, but sometimes current events happen. And in order to make sure you social justice warriors continue making me richer, I simply can't stand by and let a situation like this go to waste. Last year, only 9 unarmed black men were shot and killed by the police. But now is not the time for facts. Now is the time for feelings. Please continue destroying your own communities and burning down businesses, as long as they're not mine. We support you acting like hoodlums now more than ever. And we want you to feel comfortable giving us what little money you have left when this is all over. I promise I will continue to publicly support whatever opinions will make you keep liking me. Black Lives Matter, especially when it helps my bottom line to say that.
Oh boy, that's about what it is, actually.
That really does sum it up, and I like the way, you know, he did it. He put it in a perspective from, you know, there are some black people out there that are actually looking at this and finding it more offensive, the fact that they're trying to pander in this way instead of just making an effort, like saying, like, you know, Quaker Oats could have said, hey, we're going to donate $100,000 to fund something. Instead, they're like, oh, we'll just change the picture.
Right.
Come on. Ridiculous, man. Not cool. Ridiculous. Not cool. And they're losing cool points, and people are going to switch to Mrs. Butterworth's, and Mrs. Butterworth is shaped like a woman. Yeah. I mean,
she's next.
Yeah, I think Miss Butterworth is probably in the scope right now, but you know, eventually people will find syrup for their pancakes, regardless of what's on it.
Oh yeah, they'll be called something else, but they'll still be syrup.
Yep, they'll always be syrup.
All right, so we have had an earthquake today in Mexico, by the way.
Yeah.
7.4. Let's take we have a couple of videos of that.
Yeah.
So a pretty strong earthquake.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm not saying, you know, they're worried about Mexican construction, but man, those things were really moving. I mean, that side-to-side sway was a little scary.
That was. So, I mean, there was a lot of videos out there. Those are the two best ones I could find. But there were pools being flipped over with water. It was just a whole bunch of them. Only 4 people died so far. I mean, I wish no one would die, but 4 people have died so far. A few people injured, not too many, thank God.
Well, the thing about, I mean, I know you know about earthquakes, so do I. I mean, just because they had a 7.4 doesn't mean they won't get a 6 in the next day. Like, you could get like aftershocks. You can get all kind of tremors for a while, and then it comes back. You know, those plates are moving.
Yeah, they're saying this could be, because they had, a couple of 7s kind of close by one another. So they're saying it could be over 8 pretty soon. This is a foreshock or something like that.
Right. So, I mean, the other thing is, I mean, Mexico City has been sinking for years. It could be bad. I'm not wishing bad on anyone, but these natural disasters, I mean, what do you do? Yeah. There's nothing to do.
No, you can't stop them, unfortunately.
No.
All right. Well, now we have India and China. That looks like, we talked about the other day. This is the weapon that they beat 20 Indians with. China beat 20 Indians to death with this.
Unbelievable, man. It's like spiked bats and pieces of wood with nails in them. I mean, it's terrible.
Yeah, so dispute on the border of India and China. Just take a look at this video.
चाइना ने जिस प्रकार से लद्दाख में भारतीय सैनिकों के साथ जो बर्बरतापूर्ण व्यवहार किया, उससे पूरे देश में एक रोष और आक्रोश का माहौल है और देश के व्यापारियों ने तय किया है कि हम चाइना की वस्तुओं का बहिष्कार करेंगे और 31 दिसंबर 2021 तक चाइना से हिंदुस्तान में जो सामान आता है उसमें 1 लाख करोड़ रुपए की कमी करेंगे।
So India and China might go at it. You mentioned earlier, I mean, it's very poignant that you said that 30% of the world could go to war with those two countries.
Yeah, just those two countries alone, man. That's a lot. That's a lot of people involved. I mean, I saw a couple of videos on the comparison of the size of the army and, this, that. And, China definitely leads on military size. But, I don't know. India's nuclear. I mean, China's nuclear. It's not something that I look forward to watching escalate. And they're actually fighting over 16 miles of border. I mean, this is kind of weird because China has been creeping up on them. I think it's kind of poking India in the eye at this point because they have encroached on their border since the 1950s, I believe, is when it started. Right. When they basically took over Tibet. And then wherever Tibet touched India, they were like, yeah, and a little bit more, and over here, and then they took Kashmir. So, I mean, India's got sour grapes as far as the way China just kind of pushes forward all the time. So maybe this is a little like old blood, bad blood. Right. I don't know.
Yeah, it's been going on for a little while, so we'll see what happens. I mean, most populous countries in the world right next door, there's only one thing that could happen is them skirmish every now and then.
Yeah, and I mean they're both fighting re-outbreaks of the coronavirus too. Like India is seeing a surge. I mean, I know we have some areas here popping back up, but China, Shanghai is now, talking about another. I know we'll probably do something on that Thursday, but
Right.
I mean, they're looking at another shutdown in China. I mean, they're actually talking about it. So it's kind of weird that they're poking each other with spiked bats and threatening to go to war while they're trying to handle this too.
Yeah, I mean they had their hands full. That they.
Yeah.
So let's just go back to Cord. Go to Facebook as far as the Project Veritas.
Yeah, it's a great video.
So it's a great video. You're
Yes.
right. It's tells you about the how they suppress conservative voices.
And they're so proud of it too. I mean, that's what kind of punches me in the gut. I really wish they talked about it like on the down low, like they whispered it, or they said, hey, I don't want to admit to any of that. But they're just so like, oh yeah, I delete this, I delete that, this guy, MAGA this, MAGA that, I have no problems doing it, and they're all in it. I mean, it's so widespread. I didn't even realize Facebook had offices in Tampa and Texas and like almost every state where they're doing this crap.
Yeah, they're all over the world for that matter. So.
Unbelievable. And it's just they're letting other stuff go that would normally under their rules be censored. But they're like, no, that's okay. Who said that? Oh, Madonna said that.
That's okay.
Oh, she's allowed to talk. Who said that? Alyssa Milano. Oh, she's allowed to talk too.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or that other crazy lady that threatened to like kill Trump or whatever. Like, they could threaten to burn the White House down and kill Trump. They let that go. But all the other pro-Trump stuff is delete.
Not Bill, though.
Yeah, not me.
All right, let's take a look at the video.
Okay.
Are you afraid? I think the truth is more powerful than any NDA.
It's a very progressive company who's very anti-MAGA.
I think they're very biased with who they protect.
Facebook.
They shadow bans.
Yeah.
Facebook's notorious for it, and they say they don't, but it's clear that people's content don't comes up because it's been defiltered off the queue. They're doing something, man. They're just trying to pretend like they're not.
To me, censorship online is one of the biggest issues facing us in the lead up to the 2020 election. Let me run something by you. You know that civic harassment queue that we've been in lately?
Yeah.
Is it just me, or is it like all Republicans in there?
Yeah, it's all Republicans. But a lot of it comes off the Trump's page specifically.
So for 75 to 80% of the posts to be targeting Republicans and conservatives, you can say it was a bot, but somebody had to design that algorithm. So really, somebody at Facebook.
If a Trump post was to come up and it was promoting Trump and I could take that down, then I feel like that's the
You'll delete all of them. With the MAGA hat, I'm gonna delete it for terrorism.
Like if you see a conservative post, you just get rid of it, right?
I don't give no f***, I'll delete it.
We were told to leave this image up as long as it didn't say, oh, I'm going to actually kill Donald Trump or something like that.
So you've deleted just hashtag MAGA?
Yeah.
Like the post gone?
It's common sense.
I know a lot of people were taking down, Trump posts.
Yeah, I knew that too. I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna hold you accountable for taking it down.
So it's for the better.
Yeah, hell yeah. You gotta get the Cheeto out of all.
How many of you are they take your own stance and say we're just deleting whatever all the Trump posts?
Probably like 16 of us.
And you guys, like, you just delete everyone.
Yeah.
I know that Facebook does have a Trump rule where they still allow him on the platform even though he says things that if anyone else said it.
And that's the fortunate thing is, even if he does say something, if it gets repeated, we can at least get the average Joe.
Like half the time when I delete people for like pro-Trump, I'm like, you should be on a watch list, dude.
Yeah. Seriously.
Trump supporters like to throw around like Trump derangement syndrome as like, liberals being crazy. I like to think of it as actually you're the one that has Trump derangement syndrome. Yeah, you're losing your goddamn mind as soon as, because they're just like, oh, Trump 2020.
Yeah.
And it's like, that sounds a little more deranged to me.
There we go.
Once again, man, like James O'Keefe is just keeping them coming. And it's great because in the midst of we're only like 100 days from the election, or no, I think it's 140 something. I shouldn't spew numbers. I don't have them exactly. But anyway, we're really close to the election. And this is when the spin is going to really start heavy on CNN. And like with Facebook, everybody knows they restrict. And, Twitter is more of a shadow ban. But they all have some way of making like the Trump supporter feel like they don't matter. But their numbers on the flip side, it's like, can you imagine how they feel? Like, why do they feel this way? Because they're watching millions of posts that they have to delete because they don't have the flip side. There's not millions of Biden posts.
No.
That's why they have to do it. They wouldn't do it for any other reason other than that they're scared to death of his reelection. And it's, orange man bad. They don't really have a reason for it. I mean, I think we've hashed out all their other reasons. The Russia hoax, threw that out. The Stormy Daniels, threw that out. Michael Avenatti, he's in jail. I mean, they tried to go after, his former lawyer. They got him on like a taxi cab medallion violation from I don't even know how long ago, like from the 2000s. They went after Manafort for stuff, the Black Ledger that burned in a fire and miraculously popped back up. Everything is fabricated. Right. Everything that people say they hate about him is lies and fabrication. If they just let the guy go to work, they'd be amazed, honestly.
Yeah, and it's crazy. I mean, if they let him work and do his job, he's been concentrating all this fake stuff for 4 years. By the way, there's a countdown clock. It's 132 days, 4 hours, 26 minutes, and exactly 35 seconds.
Yeah, it's really close.
Yes.
I mean, honestly, it's really close, and the momentum is what is scaring them because sleepy Joe Biden doesn't have any momentum. I don't care if Biden was giving away money at an event. He could not get the level of people that show up for Trump. And the funny thing is, I don't want to go too long, but they talked about, Trump didn't sell out that stadium and all this other stuff. Well, you do have the virus going on. And he did say that, at the last minute, look, if you are on the side of maybe you're compromised in one way or another, you have respiratory issues or whatever, please don't come. So he honestly did tell people hey man, I want healthy people here. I mean, they did temperature checks and all that stuff, but he didn't want everybody, because I've been to a Trump rally that you can't get in because there's hundreds of thousands of people. He does not want somebody who's 70 years old hanging out with 50,000 people. It's just uncalled for. So the liberals took that, and it's almost like he set a trap for them, because they're like, 1 million people were supposed to show up and they didn't. Oh, why? You wanted 1 million people so you could say he spread the coronavirus? I mean, they literally walked into a trap where they look both directions and they're like, we can't get him on this one. Because, I mean, honestly, what he said in the rally just really hit home to the base. And I think it really hit home to people who were on the fence, too, that are saying, I don't like Biden. Show me something. And he did. I mean, that was an epic rally, man. It really was. I would love to play it, but I mean, it's an hour. Trump is long-winded. It's an hour and 90 minutes, I think. It's ridiculous.
It is. It is long-winded. So some people don't want to hear all that.
Right.
So anyway, even though it's good stuff. So we talked about Facebook. Twitter does the same thing. They draw people off. I mean,
Facebook shadow ban.
Yeah, Facebook owns Instagram, same company.
Yeah.
YouTube, Google,
same
thing.
And the weird thing is that what Trump did, I mean, there's also a counter to it. So he signed an executive order that basically laid it all out and said, look, if you are going to pick and choose content, you are no longer like a message board or a bulletin board, because that's what they always claimed, that, hey, it's other people's content. It is what it is. Right. Well, now you're picking and choosing, so now you're a publisher. Right. Now you have responsibilities. You can't spin libel. You can't lie. All of these things now focus in on you, and they don't like that. Right. Because they passed a bill. Well, they didn't pass. I say pass. They didn't pass it. They wrote a bill to stop federal funds from going towards Executive Order 3208, whatever it was. So, like, the Democrats immediately reacted because they know that they're really going to get their shit handed to them when this is all said and done. This is bad for them because the lawsuit aspect of it is now wide open. Now, everybody that they've said a lie about, they're liable for unless they retract it or they have a right, like the New York Times. The New York Times will say, like, Trump kills whatever, and then on page 32 they go, oh, our bad, we lied about that. I mean, Facebook can do it too, and so can Google, but now they have to, because now they're publishers. They're choosing what is printed or shown. So,
well, we'll see where that goes. I know it's going to go, fall.
It's a fight.
Yes.
It's going to be a fight. I mean, this is a battle that no other president would even take on.
No.
That's the funny thing. And I was talking to somebody about this today. I said, do you think Barack Obama, even if they were silencing like his people, do you think he would let this go all the way to Supreme Court, sign executive orders because they were silencing Democrats? Probably not, because it's usually something that they stay away from. And Trump is such he uses social media so much that he sees both sides of it and says, wait a minute, you can't be both. You can't say you're a bulletin board when you're being a publisher. So here you go, eat the law, because the law is already there. He's just trying to hold them accountable.
Right, I agree. All right. Well, we're going to show this history lesson. So, as you know, Bill, that all the Democrats have been, part of slavery, racism, and all that stuff in the history of time. Republicans has been there for the good anti-slavery party. Let's take a look at this video.
Yeah.
When you think about racial equality and civil rights, which political party comes to mind? The Republicans or the Democrats? Most people would probably say the Democrats, but this answer is incorrect. Since its founding in 1829, the Democratic Party has fought against every major civil rights initiative and has a long history of discrimination. The Democratic Party defended slavery, started the Civil War, opposed Reconstruction, founded the Ku Klux Klan, imposed segregation, perpetrated lynchings, and fought against the Civil Rights Acts of the 1950s and 1960s. In contrast, the Republican Party was founded in 1854 as an anti-slavery party. Its mission was to stop the spread of slavery into the new Western territories with the aim of abolishing it entirely. This effort, however, was dealt a major blow by the Supreme Court in the 1857 case Dred Scott versus Sandford. The court ruled that slaves aren't citizens, they're property. The 7 justices who voted in favor of slavery, all Democrats. The 2 justices who dissented, both Republicans. The slavery question was, of course, ultimately resolved by a bloody civil war. The commander-in-chief during that war was the first Republican president, Abraham Lincoln, the man who freed the slaves. 6 days after the Confederate Army surrendered, John Wilkes Booth, a Democrat, assassinated President Lincoln. Lincoln's vice president, a Democrat named Andrew Johnson, assumed the presidency. But Johnson adamantly opposed Lincoln's plan to integrate the newly freed slaves into the South's economic and social order. Johnson and the Democratic Party were unified in their opposition to the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery, the 14th Amendment, which gave blacks citizenship, and the 15th Amendment, which gave blacks the vote. All 3 passed only because of universal Republican support. During the era of Reconstruction, federal troops stationed in the South helped secure rights for the newly freed slaves. Hundreds of black men were elected to Southern state legislatures as Republicans, and 22 black Republicans served in the U.S. Congress by 1900. The Democrats did not elect a black man to Congress until 1935. But after Reconstruction ended, when the federal troops went home, Democrats roared back into power in the South. They quickly reestablished white supremacy across the region with measures like black codes, laws that restricted the ability of blacks to own property and run businesses, and they imposed poll taxes and literacy tests used to subvert black citizens' right to vote. And how was all of this enforced? By terror, much of it instigated by the Ku Klux Klan, founded by a Democrat, Nathan Bedford Forrest. As historian Eric Foner, himself a Democrat, notes, in effect, the Klan was a military force serving the interests of the Democratic Party. President Woodrow Wilson, a Democrat, shared many views with the Klan. He resegregated many federal agencies and even screened the first movie ever played at the White House, the racist film, The Birth of a Nation, originally entitled The Klansman. A few decades later, the only serious congressional opposition to the landmark Civil Rights Act of 1964 came from Democrats. 80% of Republicans in Congress supported the bill, less than 70% of Democrats did. Democratic senators filibustered the bill for 75 days until Republicans mustered the few extra votes needed to break the logjam. And when all of their efforts to enslave blacks, keep them enslaved, and then keep them from voting had failed, the Democrats came up with a new strategy. If black people are going to vote, they might as well vote for Democrats, as President Lyndon Johnson was purported to have said about the Civil Rights Act. I'll have them voting Democrat for 200 years. So now, the Democratic Party prospers on the votes of the very people it has spent much of its history oppressing. Democrats falsely claim that the Republican Party is the villain, when in reality, it's the failed policies of the Democratic Party that have kept blacks down. Massive government welfare has decimated the black family. Opposition to school choice has kept them trapped in failing schools. Politically correct policing has left black neighborhoods defenseless against violent crime. So when you think about racial equality and civil rights, which political party should come to mind? I'm Carol Swain, professor of political science and law at Vanderbilt University for Prager University.
Look at that. Very good.
It's all laid out, and what I love about that is historically people think that like the Democrats and the Republicans switched parties, and one of the things you'll hear a lot of college kids talk about this too, because I come in contact with a lot of recent college grads, and they say, well, the parties switched, and I grill them on it to see if they really know. But that actually never happened. What happened in the 1860s and 70s was that there were Democrats that were not willing to be on the side of the losing side. So they said, look, okay, you know what? I agree with you. Slavery was a bad thing. I want to move forward. And if they didn't move forward, if those guys didn't become Republicans, they would have never passed the 14th Amendment. So, I mean, when they talk about party switch as if it's a bad thing, they talk about it like all the racists moved to the Republican side. Right. The truth is, the good Democrats came to the Republican side and helped pass the 14th Amendment. Right. So, I mean, the argument is no. And then it happened again a couple times, like there was in the 1900s. Guys switched, they would get appointed. So like what would happen is a Republican president would, I don't want to name any names, but you know, Woodrow Wilson would say, hey, why don't you leave the Senate and be a governor or something like that or whatever. And some of those guys to get elected were smart enough to say, I'll switch parties, because if I want to be the governor of, let's say, Ohio at the time, I'm not going to do well as a Democrat. I'm going to be a Republican. And Woodrow Wilson was like, yeah, whatever. You're my guy. So, I mean, that was going on as well. And it's not like the balance of the House and the Senate was shifting. And that's what you always hear college kids argue, that, no, the Republicans are racist. They switch sides. That's not true.
No. We have never switched sides.
No, it's not true at all. And
Right.
there have been enlightened people, because I don't want this to stop. I don't want people from waking up from the Democrat Party going, hey, that was crazy. Let me get on the good side, because I'm welcoming people every day.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I am like, yes, dude, go register to vote. Go now. Like, do it now. You know, I mean, it is, people have had enough, I think, of, and like, you get the pendulum swing. People want security and law and order. The more chaos that these Democrats encourage, the more law and order they're going to vote for. And that's the way it works. If you want law and order, you want to have a future and a family, you're not going to vote for chaos. It's just not the way it works.
You can't run a business without law and order.
No, you can't run a business. You can't raise a family. Schools don't function. I mean, all of the things that come from this BS defund the police and whatever movement. I mean, you see how Chaz is going. There's already murders. They have the highest murder per capita rate. They beat Chicago, which is hard to do.
Right.
It's really hard to do. So anyway, the more chaos, the more law and order looks promising. And the party of law and order and rights, big R rights, God-given rights, is Republican. So I'm looking for a landslide, honestly. 132 days.
All right, I'm ready.
Print it.
All right. Well, that's the show tonight.
Yep.
We're going to be on again on Thursday.
Yep.
I appreciate it, you joining us, and I hope you liked it. Make sure you
Like and subscribe.
That's right. And you have a good night.
Good night.